Hello everyone, myself Dr. P. Mary Anupama, Assistant Professor from the Department of Biochemistry, St. Joseph's College for Women. Today let us study about the part 5 of natural resources, that is the food resources. Why we have to study about these food resources? Today we know that the entire world is facing problem with respect to food. Food, it is basically required for our survival, for our basic living. And the production of food, it is not just linked with the population explosion, but also it is linked with soil fertility. Nations and civilizations, they are also linked with not just ideas, the thoughts that they share, but even we have imports and exports of food. And the basic threat for survival of people in many countries is the malnutrition, the scarcity with respect to the food, the hunger. It is threatening their peace of mind, and this is threatening the nations. The belief is that there is not enough food in the world, and one belief is that there is enough food in the world but the distribution is faulty, which is true. And what is leading to this food problem? Do we really have enough food in the world, or we don't have it? That is one big question. Let us see some shocking statistics. The developed countries, they don't have much of population. It is just 20% of the entire world. But the amount of natural resources that they are consuming, it is 80%. Here is a comparison. They say that the amount of resources that a person in America consumes, it can help a person from a third world country to survive his entire life. So here we have to think about how we are consuming the food, and we also have to think about fair distribution of resources among the people of the world. Based upon the food need, the people, they are of again two types. We have undernourished people and we have malnourished people. Undernourished means these people, they basically don't receive much of food, they are left hunger and they just keep surviving. While malnourished means these people, they have the food, but due to their restrictions, their food, it doesn't have proper nutrients. It lacks one or more nutrients, leading to malnourishment among individuals. Some more reasons for food problem. When we look at developing countries, there is lots of poverty and also ignorance. There is no proper literacy. All these are affecting the health of the individuals. The main reason is the increased population. There is increased population and there is inadequate production. And here the population is increasing but the cultivatable land is the same. And increased urbanization is leading to shortage of this cultivatable land. And over time, the soil quality, it has also reduced. There are no proper seeds, poor seeds, and poor husbandry. Animal husbandry is also not properly maintained. And apart from that, in the developing countries, primitive methods of agriculture are used. According to the great economist T.R. Matthew, he says, food supply increases in arithmetic ratio, but the population increases in geometric ratio. So there is no matching between population increase and production. There are other reasons also which add to this food problem. There is no proper means of transport from the place of production to the consumer. There is unequal distribution within the family also. Here, more importance is given to the male child. Male child is fed all nutrients, protein-rich food, saying that he has to improve his muscle and height, while in some families, females are deprived. And the mothers, they also don't eat the food before serving their husband or before serving their children. They serve all of them, and whatever that is left out, they eat it. Apart from that, people, they are opting for poor diet. This can be because of cultural issues, the traditional issues, or some religious influences. Some don't prefer to have mushrooms, saying that it is non-vegetarian. Egg is rich in protein, and the government also recommends to take lots of milk and egg. But because of self-dietary restrictions or some issues with respect to the individuals, they don't consume it properly, leading to malnutrition. So the food is there, but the self restrictions and dietary prejudices. Yes, many people have it, especially youngsters. They say that I don't eat this, I don't like vegetables. Some people don't like vegetables, some people don't eat even egg. So we have different categories of people who have their own preferences, and thereby they will not be consuming all the vegetables which are providing which have to provide you all the nutrients. So if you consume vegetables, fruits, milk, little bit of non-vegetarian and egg, that will help you to have that complete diet. Here are few questions which you can think upon. How many people can the earth feed? Can it feed everyone? As the population is exploding, do we have that much agricultural cultivatable land over here? It says that a minimum of 2 hectares they are required to feed a family of 5. Do we really have that much of productive land? And apart from that, what about our natural resources? Are they really viable? Are we using them efficiently? All these things are to be kept in mind. And one who has that food in their hand, please think before throwing off that food. Don't throw it in the dustbin. Give it to the unprivileged. Give it to those who don't have food to eat. Please take care of the food resources that we have. To meet these needs of food, many revolutions have come up, which include Green Revolution, White Revolution, and Blue Revolution. Let us talk about Green Revolution. This Green Revolution aim is to increase the production of food resources, like agricultural yield has to be increased. This was introduced by the Government of India in the year 1967, and during that time it was post-independence era, and much of the financial allotment was done even for agriculture also. They want to have good yield. They want to increase the agricultural production, and this has to be done in a short span of time. And this is to meet the needs of the increasing population of India and cut down exports. And this term, the Green Revolution, it is actually coined by the American scientist Norman Borlaug. He was the person who has introduced to it. And in India, the major contributor, the person who has done a lot for this Green Revolution, is none other than the great Indian agricultural scientist, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan. And in India, the Green Revolution was a success. The reasons for this is they have drastically increased the production of rice, wheat, and maize. Lots of yield was obtained. And they also had this high yielding varieties of seeds which they have used. And they started coming up with hybrid seeds. The irrigation facilities were improved. And in those days, they started using lots of chemical fertilizers and pesticides also. Today, we talk about organic fertilizers, organic farming. But in those days, they started using these chemical fertilizers like this NPK fertilizers, the urea. They used to use them. And the chemical fertilizers they used to apply in the field so that the pests are controlled. And thereby, they got these high yields. And they also adopted modern agronomic facilities. Green Revolution was a huge success in India. And the methods were also improved in the second phase of Green Revolution. Like they started using genetically modified crops. We hear about BT cotton and BT cotton seeds. Such seeds were also available. Apart from that, genetically modified seeds which have heavy grain weight and the plant is short yet it is yielding lots of seeds and all. Such sort of seeds have come up, such sorts of plant varieties have come up which has contributed to the success of Green Revolution, and this is an attempt to meet the food needs of our country. The second revolution which we have to know is the Blue Revolution. We know that in India the amount of fish intake, it is very much less, and this fish, it has to be consumed to meet the protein need. The reason why fish is recommended is that people, they don't consume much of milk, they don't consume meat, they don't consume much of fish also. So here what's happening is a balance in the protein dietary intake, it has become very less, leading to malnutrition and some disorders. That is why intake of fish is recommended. And here through Blue Revolution, they started production of the fish using seawater or even using fresh water. So we have freshwater fish and seawater fish also available for us. Apart from these, cultivating fish, it adds to our economy and we can meet all the food requirements and nutritional requirements. Let us see some facts. India, it's a peninsular country having seashore, but much of it is unexplored. If you look at Japan, it's a very small country and most of its shore, it is explored. They do lots of fish cultivation, seafood cultivation and meet the protein needs. And here you see that just 15% of this available resource is used by our people. And the per capita consumption of fish in India, it is very less. It is just 5 kg per annum, which is very less as compared to Japan. And the main reasons for this are the lack of these mechanized crafts, the gears and all these storage facilities and all. This we were talking about the days where they had to start the Blue Revolution. Now, where do we stand? Yes, we have succeeded in it. India has succeeded in Blue Revolution. So, India is standing first in prawn production. It stands second in freshwater fish production. And lots of mechanized things have come up. Now, people are using it. People are also using brackish water and lots of fish and prawn culture is taking place. And people started even adopting scientific methods, thereby increasing the production of fish and the prawn to meet the increasing needs of our country. And hence Blue Revolution is a success in our country. One more revolution which we have to study is the White Revolution, which is aimed at increasing the production of milk. Why do we have to have this milk? So let us see some facts. Here you see that milk is considered to be a whole food. It can be easily digested by people and it is also available naturally. Of course, people with milk intolerance, they cannot consume milk. Now here, according to the reports of National Institute of Nutrition (NIN), the per capita consumption of milk per day, it should be around 300 grams. While the yield as such in India, it is 173 grams per head per day. So there is a lacuna, there is a gap, and this gap has to be filled, and this will come only when dairy technology is improved. And it is said that India, it has the lowest production of milk per animal in the world. The following are the strategies which were adopted in White Revolution. The first thing is they started working on the cattle breeds because they are the ones who have to give the milk. They worked with crossbreeding. Then they started concentrating on fodder production. Fodder is the feed for the cattle. And they started mixing the fodder with some nutrients. This you call it as fortification, which is done. Then these cattle, they have to be kept in clean place, that is cattle shed management. So good hygiene practices were taught to these people. And then milking practices, they were also changed. And cattle feeding with this milking practices and cleanliness and using some crossbreeds, these will lead to increased milk production. Yes, all of us know about this Amul plant. The white revolution success story, it is attributed to this Anand Dairy in Gujarat, which we call it as the Amul plant. And the pioneer for white revolution in India, it is Dr. V. Kurain. So here you see Amul plant, it has produced lots and lots of milk products. And it is a very much success in India and throughout the world. Here government, it has launched many schemes for the people who are having this animal husbandry. The National Dairy Board, it has also launched project which you call it as Operation Flood. And this is aimed to meet the milk production in India. And you see that with time, many cattle sheds were established which have followed all the good practices, and finally milk production in our country is increasing. With this, we have completed the world food scarcity and then the three revolutions, that is the green revolution, blue revolution and white revolution, which can meet the needs of food by the people.